Welcome back to another episode of Making Sense with me, John Napolitano. We're here to break down the big questions high net worth families face. You know, the ones your investment guy never talks about. No fluff, no finance 101, just straight talk to help you make smarter decisions and keep your wealth working as hard as you do. Let's get to it. Hi, I'm John Napolitano. Welcome to another edition of Making Sense here, where we're talking about issues for the wealthy families, high net worth families that have a lot of stuff going on, affectionately known as crap all over the place, and trying to integrate everything, fully integrate your entire life, your business, your family, your earnings, your taxes, your insurance, all the above, to proactively help you stay ahead of the game. Today, we're going to talk about family business. Yep, a family business. You know, lots of them out there. I've got an expert with me. That expert today is Mark Henry, a partner at Citrin Cooperman, the 17th largest accounting firm in the United States. Hello, Mark. How you doing?
Hi, John. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are.
So I've been doing this almost 25 years. And the core of Citrin Cooperman, it's actually, I'm very proud of this decision we made as a firm about a year ago because it's close to my heart, is we decided as a firm, even though we've grown and we're 17th largest firm, and I think people see us as you're a large firm, you got a lot of resources, but are you also looking to work with larger companies? We are definitely committed to the privately held owner managed business market. That's who we are. As I look around the halls of my office, that's all what we all came up on. So what we are working with companies through all phases, from founding a company ultimately to the sale, and helping them all in between with family business issues and growth issues, and then all the success that comes from it. And then obviously working from you when they reach some of those success milestones to liquidate and monetize and enjoy their right.
Now, family business has some unique issues that they're focused, and of course, the first one everyone thinks of is nepotism. And are they in the right seat because of the right last name or the right, gene combination, or because they're the best person suited for that? And on that note, I'm going to just throw out some stats to get us started here. According to a 2010 survey by the Johnson College of Business at Cornell University, only 40% of U.S. family businesses make it to the second generation. 13% make it to the third generation, and 3% make it to the fourth generation. Not real good odds. Now, that doesn't mean that they failed. They may have sold or moved on to better things, but those are not really good odds at all. So talk to us about some of the issues that are unique to the family business.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with that, those stats are not surprising at all, right? It's sad, but people's passions and life changes course, and what it takes to be a founder is amount of passion and sacrifice and what you're putting into the business to start with nothing, right? If I think about the stage of founding, when we're working with clients in that beginning stage, right? You're just trying to bootstrap cash, you're trying to create a new product or service offering, whatever it is that you're doing, that you're passionate about, right? And you're finding a way to make money for your family, and you're reinvesting everything you have into that business, right? That's a founder mentality. You're bringing on new staff, you're hiring, you're firing, you're in charge of IT, you're in charge of finance. You might be a 10-person organization at that point. The skills it takes to be that type of person, to sacrifice and then come home, and you might not be able to pay the mortgage yet. You're not able to buy that fancy car, do any fancy vacations yet. You're reinvesting, right? That's a life cycle that takes a different mentality. When you get to that second generation, some of it, you bring on that second generation, they may not have a choice. They're coming into the business no matter what. But as you kind of dilute that, go to third generation, fourth generation, they have more choices, right? You've given them more opportunity in life. You've created a successful business that's mature enough now where you got to get them to go to any college that they wanted, right? You've created all these opportunities for them, but now those opportunities come with, hey, mom or dad, I don't know if I want to follow in your footsteps. I want to do something different. So kind of managing all those emotions. And it's also, we chatted about it earlier, they might not have the skill sets needed to be successful. And I think the one thing that, and I'm thinking of one client in particular right now, we're transitioning to the third generation. There's a large gap between late 50s and early 20s, and some more coming. And those 20-year-olds have an unbelievable upside. But what it took to be successful when you're 55 and create a business where it is today, when you accelerate, say 10 years from now, it's a different business, right? It's a much larger business. The issues are bigger. You may have to be more less generalist and more focused. You may need key members of management around those younger employees, those younger members to really take on that business. So it's constantly evolving, and what it takes to be successful as a founder isn't the same as what it takes to be successful as a fourth generation company.
So very well said. That in essence is the thing we hear all the time, right? What got you here is not necessarily going to get you there. And that's the case for sure with the family business. Now, two common themes that I see. One of them is that the oldest in the family tends to A, get first crack, or B, be the kind of anointed successor no matter what. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's the default, no doubt. Usually it's, hey, we've been grooming this person. We've always thought firstborn is going to be the one there. I'm thinking of another example of a client I'm working with right now where there's about a 10-year gap between the two. And I think what I love about that situation is we had multiple meetings over the span of 5 to 10 years. This doesn't happen overnight. And it's two brothers, and what ended up happening is the brothers kind of came to the decision collectively on their own. It didn't have to be dad or mom anointing the person. They eventually got mature enough in life and where they're successful that they came to the same conclusion that the younger brother needed to take over as the CEO. And the older brother was going to serve in a great capacity as an owner and drive, but stay in their lane of what they were passionate about. And that worked out really well. It doesn't always work out that well, but I think the earlier you introduce those conversations, I think sometimes as parents, you don't want to introduce that because you don't want to create conflict amongst your kids or think you're favoring one over the other. But you have to have those conversations. I think it's also important to bring advisors into those conversations, whether it be your financial advisor, your lawyer, your accountant, a business coach, whatever it is, to really have a third party that takes the emotion out of the best you can. It is an emotional conversation, but to really say, hey, who belongs in this role and who wants this role? It's not, you don't have to take it just because you're the oldest. Who's going to be the most successful, and how can we as a family get there? Now, one other issue, John, and I know you've seen this before, is you're going to have varying level of skill sets join the family business, say in the second generation. One might be more valuable than the other in terms of driving future growth of the business. How do you deal with that equity, right? And there's no perfect answer. I know parents are torn on this all the time. You also may have another kid that's not coming into the business. How do you compensate them in your estate planning? I know that's what you guys do all day long.
Mhm.
That can be really challenging. Just an example is you could have 3 children, one's not in the business, 2 are in it, and then there's differing skill sets of who's driving the business growth versus who's not. How do you compensate that as a parent? How do you feel good? How do you go to bed at night knowing you've taken care of everyone? And I've seen a lot of different ways that people approach that. One kind of common theme is the ones in the business get the business, but it's also okay to give more to the one driving the growth. And it's not easy to come to that. A lot of parents end up defaulting to 50-50 on that split, but that is something that needs to be thought of, that needs to be sat down with the kids, and everyone needs to be bought into that. It is a really challenging position.
So let's dissect that a little. And I'm not going to make it more complicated, although it frequently is. And what I mean by that is, so let's say it's, you and I are brothers and we're the owners of the business and we each have 4 children. It's like, oh my God, now there's 8 potential family successors or at least future owners. And I see 2 things happen in people's plans. One is they have really crappy estate plans that just says, okay, I go, spouse gets it, which again is inherently unfair. If you've got a brother who's going to then run the business and spouse just expects to sit back and collect either a combination of paychecks or dividends or profit distributions, whatever it might be. Or the second is they equalize and they say, okay, the business is worth 10 million. So there's 2 ways to equalize that. If your estate's big enough, well, then you give 10 million of other assets to each of the other children, or there's a promissory note of 7.5 million that goes out to the other siblings out there. So what have you seen in practice is one of the better ways to accomplish that objective? Because equal is not always equitable, but to kind of keep family peace so Thanksgiving dinner goes down easy.
Yeah, and it's a loaded question, right? Because you can go different. The first thing I thought about was a buy-sell agreement, right? I think that's a really important fact is, me and you as brothers, we're working really hard together. We're on the same page. I pass away or something happens and I'm out of the company. It moves to my spouse. The spouse may not be able to drive the business the way you and I did together, work well together. Now you're dealing with the other children coming into the business, money's flying around with people asking questions. That's going to hurt the value of the business. I like the buy-sell agreement because at least it forces in a conversation of, should we just buy you out before it starts kind of spider webbing out to other family members we may not want in the business? And it's not a decision we're making proactively. It's a decision we're being forced to make. So that's my first thing is we sometimes as we're working with family businesses that are moving from founder stage to kind of a growth stage. They don't have buy-sell agreements. And I know that's something you could definitely help with. It can create a scary problem at the end. And any way to protect the next level from it being forced to happen where I get ownership as a child and I'm not in the business yet, any layer of protection, and that's what a buy-sell can do, is force a mechanism to maybe catch those people out before you give up additional ownership.
So if you're listening as a business owner and you do not have a buy-sell agreement, a succession agreement with your partner in the event of death, disability, or no mas, I had enough of this business, you better get one immediately. I'm not going to tell you to stop listening to this now and call us to get it done, but I'm tempted to. The second part of that is you may have done this. Your lawyer may have been hip enough to say at formation, okay, guys, you need an agreement. What happens if? But that needs to be revisited. Maybe not every year, but regularly, because valuation changes. And as Mark said earlier, passions change, abilities change, and who should be in the right seat at the right time changes. So an agreement you made 10 years ago that said, yeah, no problem, I go, your spouse gets it all, just may not be appropriate anymore. And that's the beginning of a real ugly situation typically.
Yeah, I dead on agree with you. And kind of if I think of best in class buy-sell agreements, they typically have a valuation refresh every 3 years just to say, hey, let's either get a third party valuation or at least have someone take a peek at this to say, do we all agree this is how you value the company? Because what you wrote down is, hey, you might have said, hey, we're going to value the company on 1 times revenue or 5 times EBITDA, whatever you agree to, but the market changes, right? So those are things you want to think about in the future. You don't want to be stuck to a certain formula. You should kind of look at it. Hey, do we really agree on this? Do I still want to be here? It could also facilitate some healthy conversations of, we see owners all the time. Sometimes they want to stay on forever. Tomorrow changes. Hey, I'm wealthy enough. I'm ready to move on, or I'm done with this place. I'd love to get bought out. So it's almost like a healthy driver of a conversation. Do we want to part ways in a healthy way?
And if you're one of the siblings, by the way, that doesn't get a piece of the business, but yet you're equalized through some other assets or a promissory note from your sister who did inherit the business, don't be bummed out, man, because there's no guarantee that business is going to last, it's going to grow, or it's going to thrive. Stuff happens. So you that got the promissory note or the cash or the securities or the real estate instead of the business, in the long run, may be the winner. So, you've got to do what's fair. So let's pivot now over to, we have identified G2 to take over the business. Now, in most cases, they're already working there, aren't they?
Yeah, in most cases, best case scenario, right? I think of everyone handles this a little bit different. I look at the families where they bring their kids on in early, right? So sometimes you let them go off on their own for a couple of years to learn another business line and maybe come back. But sometimes they start right out of college and they bring them into everything. So they're in the warehouse, they're driving a truck, right? I think some of this too is you also, as they grow, you want all the people around them to respect them, right? So the more they can understand about the business, they're dealing with customer service, they're doing sales, the more they can gain the respect of the people around them, as opposed to I'm the anointed one because I'm the next generation. I think that's super valuable. But I also think there's a ton of value in just understanding the process for every single one of us, right? Oh, this is how the product comes in the door. This is how we ultimately sell it to a customer. And oh, this is what customers are asking for. There's a ton of value there. And then have them sit in meetings, as build them up over time, but maybe come into a couple of finance meetings, some legal meetings, and really kind of let them just sit and absorb and see what's going on. The more you can do that at a young age and get them ingrained into the culture, they'll understand more about the business. They'll understand there's other avenues of the business so that you're working on the business, not just in the business. And they'll also appreciate what they're about to get, right? They're about to be handed a very valuable asset. They're going to work for it too, but it's not all just handed over. Hey, this is a $50 million company. We're just going to give it to you. You're earning that, and you need to understand the ropes to drive value in the future.
So there's a couple of embedded thoughts I've got in that as well. One is, that it's obviously, I can't say obviously, but most family businesses are not made up of 100% family. There's a key small group of family, but then there's a whole bunch of other people that could be driving the trucks, leading the marketing, maybe even president of the organization for that matter. So I'd say develop a culture of good HR policies and practices. And I don't just mean things like paid time off and educational reimbursements. I'm talking about things like a review every year for every employee, merit-based improvements, merit-based pay, merit-based bonuses that are documented on a fair and reasonable standard and apply across the board to everyone. And the second thing embedded in that I'd like to comment on is communication. And that is, hopefully there's other key people in this business, because I'm going to go on the record and say, if it's just you, leader dude, and maybe one other family person, you're never going to have a lot of loyal employees. So you've got to nurture and bring up non-family people as well. And that is communication. Let them know, hey, if I kick the bucket tomorrow, here's the plan. And the plan for tomorrow may be different than the long-term plan. For example, if your daughter's only been in the business for 5 years, well, she may not be ready to become the president, but the lady who's been there for 20 years is the ideal president. So let everyone know, because that then relieves anxiety and makes people feel good about where they are and what they're at. And it may cost you some money to do that. You may have to have stay-on bonuses. You may have to have, phantom equity or real equity, whatever it may take in order to retain some of your key people.
Well, and you bring up a really good point, because I think as companies grow, right? If we're talking about all the life cycles, say you're 0 to 25 million, 25 to 50, 50 to 100, and then plus, it takes a different skill set to get there, right? So you're going to need, as you continue to grow, you need to bring in high performers, people from larger companies to come down and help you grow. They're also going to ask for more money. They're probably, like you just said, phantom equity. They're going to want to feel like owners. They may understand that, the kids are coming into the business, they're going to be the future owners, but they're going to want to share in that. As you grow and you want to be high performing, you're going to need people like that to continue to grow, especially at scale, right? It can't just be the kids that drive it at that point. So with those things, you're going to have to, communication is going to be key, but also, like you said, you're going to be paying them more. And when you start doing a phantom equity plan, you're going to have them visibility to the financial statement. So you're going to have more key stakeholders, not just owners, that have visibility to financial metrics, EBITDA, revenue targets, all these things. And communicating and doing that regularly and fairly is really important.
Yeah, so very important. Many times, too, the financial records of a smaller family-held business are not that good. When you take over a family business that's in the throes of succession, or should be in the throes of succession, what are some of the, accounting and financial issues that you commonly come across?
Yeah, I mean, it's all different based on the size of the company, right? The larger they get, they tend to kind of naturally build up their infrastructure and their accounting. So if we're taking kind of first generation and they're in growth mode, usually what hits them first is they need bank financing, right? And that's usually when we're helping with the taxes, we're doing tax planning, we're mitigating that exposure, we're helping them develop personal wealth. But until they get to a point where a bank's asking questions, hey, you want a $5 million line of credit? I want to see an audit. I want to see a reviewed financial. That's when the infrastructure really needs to change, and it needs to be run more like a business versus a piggy bank, or, a tax savings vehicle. So that's kind of the next phase. And that's one of the life cycle things we can help clients with is finding the right bank for them based on the situation they have, right? So if it's, I need a new line of credit because I'm expanding product lines or I'm building a new warehouse, we can help find those courses. And then on the financial side, now you're reporting to someone. They want to know, I get timely information, accurate information, but I also get forecasts, right? Banks are asking all of the time. I don't want to just know where you were in 2024. We're in 2025 right now. I want to know where you're going to be next year, right? And not only with that, I want to know you hit those numbers once you get them to me. And the only way you have that is you have someone on staff, whether a controller or a CFO, as you grow, or you have a good accounting firm with you, helping you kind of navigate and prepare all those things.
Yeah, and those forecasts need to be current. And even better, I'd say, or not better, but you should also be able to produce prior forecasts and then show your actual compared to your forecasts. Because some will look at your forecasts with a skeptical eye if it's looking a little too rosy, unless you can show them the last 3-year history where rosy forecasts were not only met, but perhaps exceeded. That would be ideal. What about the role of the founder after the succession? Do you find that it's in the best interest of the next gen for the founder to skedaddle or to keep some advisory role, some capacity?
Well, I'm speaking to someone right now that's in that position, so I know I can gain some advice from you. But I think the best case scenarios I've seen are founders have unbelievable knowledge and ability to transfer that knowledge onto the next generation. The longer you can have access to them internally and also with their vision and growth model for the success of the firm going forward, the better off you are. But ultimately, as you kind of plan, that founder does need to figure out a way to phase themselves out of being crucial to operations going forward. They can be part of strategy. They can be part of growth. They can be part of mentorship. Those are all invaluable things that we want to see them do. I think about our CPA firm. I think about our clients that we're working with. The better that founder can kind of create a level below them that is just as capable, if not more capable, of driving the business without them, the better they're going to be, right? They may still have ownership equity. That's going to create more value for them. They decide to sell in the future. The more they can limit the need for a buyer to come in and have the founder employed, the more valuable it is to them as well in terms of an exit value. So the goal for a founder should ultimately make themselves replaceable. It sounds terrible, especially if it's been your product and your passion and your ownership. But if you want to see the company live on and be successful, you want to have an exit that's more successful, the more you can transition yourself out of the business and make yourself less crucial, the better you are.
That is so counterintuitive to a lot of business owners. And even like myself and you, been schooled on this stuff. I intuitively knew that. 2024 was my last year as an employee, but my only role was to learn how to be a chairman. And then I started full-time as a non-employee, only a chairman of the firm in January. It took me at least a year to learn how to do that role. And some would say I'm still learning, including myself. But it's amazing. You are 100% correct. The value of the firm skyrockets once you can show that the founder is not only replaceable, but in effect has been replaced by younger and maybe even more capable talent. That's an invaluable tip, Mark. Well, I think any family business that's listening to this, we either tickled their fancy with making them feel really good about the stuff they've done or scared the hell out of them about the stuff they need to get done. And if you need to get it done, I can tell you that Mark's firm, Citrin Cooperman, Mark's based in Braintree, Mass., but as the 17th largest accounting firm in the country, they are in every major city. And the guys that took over for me at Napier Financial, these guys can help you get through this stuff really no problem. I want to thank you for being here, Mr. Henry.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure we'll do this again. This topic alone raised 10 other issues that we'll talk about. Well, thank you for watching this edition of Making Sense, and keep your eyes peeled because Mark will be back and we'll be doing more cool stuff to get your financial world fully integrated. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Making Sense. If you got something valuable out of today's episode, share it with someone who'll appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe. One last thing. If you love the show, open your app and give the show a 5-star review. Until next time, thanks for listening to Making Sense.
The information presented in this podcast is the opinion of Napier Financial, LLC, and does not reflect the view of any other person or entity. The information provided is believed to be from reliable sources, but no liability is accepted for any inaccuracies. This is for information purposes and should not be construed as an investment recommendation. Past performance is no guarantee of future performance. Napier Financial, LLC is an investment advisor registered with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Additional information, including management fees and expenses, is provided on our Form ADV Part 2, available upon request, and at the SEC's Investment Advisor Public Disclosure website. To learn more about Napier Financial, please check us out at napierfinancial.com.